Okay, yesterday, Sunday, we received a call for a shooting in a 700 block of High Street. Upon arrival, officers found Amos Clay laying on the sidewalk with a gunshot wound to the leg. Within probably 20 to 30 minutes, a neighbor notified the on-scene officers that there was also a male laying in the rear of the property at 709. The deceased was found in the rear of that property. Devontae Gant, 22-year-old male. Shortly afterwards, approximately 8 o'clock, a male showed up at the hospital by the name of Stefan Landing with a gunshot wound to the chest. Apparently stated to first officers that he didn't know where he was shot. After an investigation, it was determined that he was also in the 700 block of High Street. Apparently, this was a drug transaction that went terribly bad. And so you end up with 2 victims of shooting, one becoming a defendant and a deceased male in the back. At this point, we're pretty confident that that is probably the extent of this investigation. However, we still would like information if anybody has any, because I've said this so many times that people have information about crimes, shootings, and homicides. A lot of this information was probably out on social media even before we identified the deceased, which only tells me how much information people have about some of the crimes that we talk about. And as you've probably heard me state before, if folks choose not to report information they know that could lead us to the arrest and shootings, that eventually it'll end up somebody being shot to death, as is the case here. Landing is facing charges of criminal homicide, criminal attempt homicide, and weapons offenses. Amos Clay is facing felony weapon possession, person not to carry. And this investigation will still continue as we gather information. Detectives have been working on this since last night and developing this case, and that's how we end up here. And literally, they worked through the night and all through the day in order to try to bring this to a quick conclusion. Before I take questions, I'll bring District Attorney Stedman.
Thank you, Chief. Just want to commend the City Police Department on the swift resolution of this case. These are not easy cases to solve. Drug deals don't take place in the open, and typically these people do not want to cooperate with the police, and to have it resolved this quickly is definitely a positive thing. The individuals are, of course, presumed innocent. There's no successful retirement plan for drug dealers. You end up dead or in jail, and in this case we have one dead. Obviously condolences to the family. We have another one facing homicide charges and another one facing serious person not to possess charges for a firearm. That means he was a convicted felon who was carrying a firearm and thus carrying it illegally. So these are extremely serious charges against the remaining 2 individuals that chose to conduct this type of lifestyle, as far as, at least on that particular evening and the prior that I talked to you about, of the persons not to possess. So there are certainly some extremely serious issues facing our community with the recent crimes that we've had. The police continue to respond effectively and solve them, but we've got to look at what we can do going forward. I can tell you, without going into any further detail, that the chief, the mayor, and I are involved and actually have been involved prior to this in discussions about how to respond before, during, and then even after some of these type of crimes and gun violence. And at an appropriate time, hopefully in the near future, we'll reveal what we can come to a consensus in some of our proposals to target these individuals. And it continues to be, for the most part, a small group of the same individuals who are perpetrating these crimes, and we'll look to focus on that to protect the community and make people feel safer. I mean, certainly there was no element of randomness to this. There is no other that we could tell. There's no evidence that I've heard that anybody else is involved. And now you got, you know, three, well, everyone got shot and one died. So like I said, we'll talk again in the future after I sit down with the mayor a little bit more and the chief and maybe some other officials as well, and come up with some other possible responses that we can do. But for now, again, I want to thank and congratulate the police department on their work, and thank Chris Lechner and Todd Brown from my office who have been working on this case with the police. And I guess we'll open up for questions.
Chief, do we know if the